Welcome to the Recovery Playbook. I'm your host, Dr. Daryl Shorter.
And I'm your host, Ryan Leaf.
And today we are going to talk about healing in the context of recovery.
I find this fascinating because, for many reasons, my brain health is incredibly important to me simply because of the occupation I chose to play, which resulted in a ton of brain trauma. CTE has become a huge hot topic and a discussion point around athletics simply because it cannot be diagnosed until postmortem. And we're learning more about symptoms and things like that, but then what influence did my drug use have on my brain? And how can individuals who are dealing with it, with the technology that exists now, be more informed?
Yeah. So it's interesting when I think about patients that I've worked with who have been in both short-term and long-term recovery, there is absolutely a healing process that takes place for folks, but not just on the brain side, also on the physical side, as well as like in their lives, spiritually, emotionally, etc. So I think it's important for us to at least touch on the fact that the brain does heal. There are neuroimaging studies that have demonstrated, really exquisite studies that have taken people who used to use substances at the time of when they present, and they scan their brain and they see, okay, well, what parts of the brain are lighting up versus what parts of the brain aren't lighting up. And then they take those same people 12 months later and they look, and the parts of the brain that were under functioning seem to have developed some new connections and that they are working a bit better. So the brain has the ability to heal. I think that that's great news for people who really are concerned that they have somehow broken their brain as a result of their substance use.
Well, I also think that's also another way to, bash stigma to the side. The understanding of that. I think people look, oh, he used drugs for 10 years. He's worthless in terms of what he can do and communicate and learn. And I'm going to tell you this, like anything, you practice. Speaking for the outlier concept of things, 10,000 hours of what you do well, I'm more articulate. I have a better understanding than I ever did, 12 years ago when I got sober. I don't know if it had something to do with the brain tumor that was extracted from my brain too, but all of it in terms of brain health has changed significantly from the kind of food I put in my body, the amount of water that I've consumed, the amount of technology I absorb with blue light and everything like that, to reading and being educated. And I found that has increased I wish I had actual tangible scans to showcase that. What I love about the Menninger clinic here is how for research development that exists here, where doctors are doing tangible, in the moment research on things that can change the future for many people, and being able to understand it and see it, I think goes a long way, especially with the generation we always talk about wanting to know why. Why is this happening? Oh, I can actually see it. People have a real problem with mental illness because you can never really see it. It's just something that's diagnosed. It's chemical, something in the brain. But now, with the ability to showcase like an MRI or an X-ray to somebody, oh, you have a broken leg. Here's a brain scan that shows the activity that it's changed or needs to be developed or needs to be fixed through the process.
That's right. That's a really important area of research. And one of the things that I think is most fascinating about it is that people want answers about what their brain looks like. That did not exist when I got into this field 20 years ago. People might have had questions about what their brain looked like, but they were really mostly interested in what medication am I going to take and for how long? And now people have these questions about is this area of my brain functioning normally? How likely is it to come back online in the same way? What does functioning look like for me 6 months out, 12 months out, 2 years out? And so neuroimaging studies and biomarkers, that's really the terminology that's used. These biomarkers of mental health and of addictions recovery are things that are being studied all across the country, really throughout the world.
Well, it's educational and it's helpful for those that, what I just needed to know, because the way my negative self-talk to me was that you're a loser, you're a failure, you're a junkie, or you're crazy. The types of stigmatizing words that are used to identify people like me. I think when I finally was diagnosed with PTSD and, anxiety and depression, that gave me an answer. And for those who are looking for more in-depth types of things of why, and then really a pathway forward.
Yeah.
Under the biomarkers you talked about and how it's almost like goal setting. You can see this and where we need to be and where we need to go.
But I think it also helps people to understand that these are brain conditions or brain illnesses. And when we focus on the brain specifically, and in particular healing in the brain, I think it helps to really root that in the same kinds of conversations that we have about things like heart disease, things like lung disease. They're sort of the same thing. We track people's progress, the progress of their illness, but also the progress of their recovery by doing scans. And so it's interesting. I didn't think that this is where we would be going today in our conversation, but I think this concept of a brain illness or a brain disease and then following that up with brain scans is an important one.
Yeah, and I think it limits the detractors from being able to go, it's a choice.
Yeah.
Although
we're not necessarily at the point where everybody needs to walk into a treatment facility and get an MRI of their brain.
Right.
A lot of this science is still really being worked out, but it is important, I think, for the overall field for us to be talking about these things in this way. I want to add on to this conversation, not just the piece about the brain health, but also physical health and how that can change for people as well. Perhaps some of our viewers have seen what happens in the body as a result of like quitting smoking, for example, and how like lung health gets better, blood pressure goes down. So we know that healing is not just about the brain, it's also about the body too.
Well, it's been huge for me. I mean, significant. I walked out of prison at 325 pounds. About to really keel over from high blood pressure, stroke out. And that has played maybe more of a factor in all of this than the psychotherapy aspect of things. Especially after your third time through rehab and the 3-year stint in prison, you know the snap words to recovery and psychotherapy. It's a big reason why I think a lot of people who go through that process end up getting their counseling degrees and things like that to help, because they have a really good understanding of it. What you don't have a really good understanding of is how much the body plays a part in all this. And so that's been a significant change for us. And then the investment is in you. And I think that may be the biggest factor. Because when I tell you the next thing, you're going to go, oh, that's an entitled, POS through that process. We got ourselves a chef. And simply because I did the research, I looked at how much money we were spending monthly on groceries, eating out, ordering online, and it blew me away. And all of that's not good food. It's bad food. So the chef then, again, this goes into the accountability side of things for you when you go to treatment or you go to sober living. It's like, he only makes non-processed food. So it's the paleo aspect of things. And it's changed my life significantly. And it's changed it for my kids too, because I never grew up, I don't think I ate a Brussels sprout until I was in my 40s. Cauliflower, fruits, vegetables, non-processed foods. And now my son's eating them. My son, we put the cauliflower on his plate the other night, and he was just like, oh, yes, excited about it. And I'm just like, this is odd, doesn't eat McDonald's will not eat McDonald's French fries. And I'm like, what's wrong? There's something wrong with this kid, But it's just amazing. He can.
So doesn't eat McDonald's French fries?
Right?
I
think that's going to shift. That will shift and change. It has to. But we did this. I did it February of 23 is when we started it. I was 274 pounds at the time. I'm 215 pounds now. The amount of energy that I have on a daily basis, the crashes during the day because of sugar intake and stuff like that. My A1C number is down to 5.1. All of these things, I'm going to be an old dad. You know, my baby girl that we just had 16 weeks ago, when she graduates from high school, I'll be 65 years old. And so I want to be around as long as I can because I really love being a father and getting to see that play out. So this was a conscious choice. It's hard to do, just like anything else, but the physical nature of it, you know, I train, you know, twice a week. I try to get out and be as active as I can with work, with kids, all of that. But it's an investment in you. And then there isn't a better investment that you can have than in your wellness and your health.
Yeah. So I think the take-home messages would be, one, the brain can heal.
Yes.
And so can the body.
Yeah.
But not without us sometimes putting the right fuel in it.
And, it doesn't mean you have to get a chef. But as it turned out, we end up spending less money with a chef coming in to cook than
You
we
do
did.
not want to see my Uber Eats bill.
No, you don't. I looked at mine for like 2021 and I was shocked. And no one needs to see that. Sorry, Arby's, sorry, Taco Bell, but you're gone. You're not gonna be sponsors for the Recovery Playbook. All right.
All right, so here's the play. The play is eat healthy and count on it that your brain will heal.
Yep.
Until next time.